The most fun we ever have in the equipment corner is when we take one kind of equipment and pit it against another. So welcome to the battle of the mixers. We have the handheld mixer in one corner, and we have the standing $230 mixer in the other.
We were very curious about this. Not all of our viewers have one of these standing mixers. They are somewhat expensive. They're more than $200. They take up a lot of space. But many viewers do have a hand mixer. We wanted to find out what each one of these did well, better than the other, how to use them the best way. Let me tell you a couple of things about the stand mixer first. It usually comes with 3 attachments. This is the whisk. It actually goes on just as this whisk is right there. This is what you use for whipping cream or whipping egg whites. This is the paddle. This is great for making any kind of dough or batter. If you're gonna cream butter and sugar, paddle is the choice. If you're gonna need bread dough, you use this. It's the dough hook. So we pit these mixers against each other in a number of different tests. We whipped cream, we whipped egg whites, we whipped whole eggs, actually, for genoise that you have before you. We creamed butter and sugar for yellow cake batter. We made 2 types of cookies, sugar cookies and oatmeal cookies, and we made buttercream frosting. One of the interesting things is, with the sugar cookies, the dough actually came together in a nice cohesive mass in the stand mixer, whereas the dough that we mixed with the hand mixer, we had to turn out and knead for about 10 seconds to bring it together. But in the finished cookies, they were indistinguishable. The texture and the flavor were almost identical. Ditto the oatmeal cookies. Couldn't tell them apart. When we were whipping whole eggs for the genoise batter, we actually had to whip the eggs for twice as long using the hand mixer as we did in the stand mixer.
So how long? You're talking about 7 or 8 minutes here?
Yeah, a long time standing there mixing. We also ended up with a little more volume in the cake batters from the stand mixer. This one we made with the stand mixer. We have about 7 cups of batter here. This one, the same number of eggs. With the hand mixer, about 6.5 cups, so a little less volume. Now, the interesting thing is, in the finished cakes, which you have before you, that one with the hand mixer, this one with the stand mixer, they're almost identical. The texture was similar, the flavor was similar, and the rise. Now, this is a genoise. The only leavening in here is egg foam. It doesn't have a chemical leavener in there. And if you measure them, you can see that they were within like 1/4 of an inch of each other. So as long as you beat the eggs for a little longer with the hand mixer, it'll take care of that. Probably in the final analysis, all of us here in the test kitchen would choose to have the stand mixer because it will need bread dough. It's a little more versatile that way. And you can just turn it on and, do something else close by. Whereas when you're mixing with the hand mixer, you're standing there mixing. You have a lot of work to do all the time. But we came up with a few tips for using each one. First, the kind of bowl you use when you're using a hand mixer actually makes a difference. It's much easier to keep everything in the bowl when you have a relatively deep bowl like that as opposed to a wide, shallow
So a lot of those
mixing
glass
bowl.
bowls, for example, are wide.
And you'll end up spattering stuff all over the place. Why don't you pour that genoise batter in there? And I want to say about the hand mixers that when you mix, you should go around the circumference of the bowl and then through the center. Just make sure that you keep everything moving and you go through the center every now and then to incorporate everything in the bowl. If you're going to whip cream or egg whites using a hand mixer, go for 40, 50, 60 seconds longer than you would if you were using a stand mixer. You're going to need it. If you're whipping whole eggs for a genoise batter, double the time that you would spend.
There's one other tip we often use too, which is to take sort of a damp kitchen towel and just make a little turban out of it and put the bowl on it.
And that'll stabilize the bowl.
Especially with a hand mixer.
Now, if you're using the stand mixer, we came up with one very important tip. This bowl is filled with whipped cream. We're going to finish whipping it. Number one, you never want to turn the speed up too high on a stand mixer. We almost never go past 8. That's enough. Because they're very powerful and you run the risk of overbeating your doughs that way. And when you're whipping egg whites and cream, stop just short of where you want it. Take the whisk off, unhook the bowl, and finish whipping by hand. That way you'll avoid overbeating your egg whites or your cream. And that's the tip for the stand mixer.
So the battle of the mixers was won by the expensive $230 standing mixer. But hey, for 70 bucks, you can come in a very close second.
The batter's flying now.